Want to get into the embarrassing stuff. I really loved this computer game, fourth grade Jumpstart, which had to do with a magical haunted island and rescuing a bunch of kids from the evil witch teacher. Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be doing the Authortube Pick Me Up tag by Tebuggy, because I wanted to do another Authortube tag because they're really fun and I get to blab about my friends and blab about my writing, which is kind of in my purview right now. I will be talking and tagging and whatnot about a lot of people who I don't necessarily have links for, so hopefully they won't be too mad. So yeah, let's start off. Number 1, talk about friends that you've made through writing. I have a lot of them in real life because of undergrad and the graduate school that I've attended, but I want to talk about the ones that I have most recently made / are in my writing group, and I will just give them shout outs. First off, let's just do this. Ruth Day, I met her in graduate school. We were one of very few people who went from the MA program to the MFA because it was a 1 or 2 year program, so we went into the 2-year program together. We taught together. She is a young adult fantasy writer. Yeah, just a really cool person. Like her writing, she's really hardworking and generally is not afraid to tell you when you've screwed up. So I really appreciate all of her feedback. I've shouted out Veronica before. Again, middle grade fantasy, light, fluffy, magical writing. Go check out her book, The Word Keeper. I still haven't read it because I'm a terrible person, but I'm getting to it soon. Next one is Christopher Ellison. Met him in undergrad. I remember the first thing that I really read of his, I didn't get it because I was dumb and I didn't realize that the whole thing was sarcastic and laced with humor. He's a really funny guy. He's really good at action sequences and magic. Everything about his world is just really intriguing and I'm like, I want to know more. So look out for him. Next is Dani Silva. Met her through a poetry class in undergrad. She loves magical realism and she does a lot of body positivity in her writing. Her stuff isn't like super complex and esoteric or anything. It's very straightforward and down to earth, but really beautiful and melodic at the same time. Fernanda, I haven't read a lot of her stuff in a long time, but she's done YA and adult fantasy. She has really clean, clear, crisp writing. Awesome person as well. Again, not afraid to call you out on your bullshit. Love it. She has a really intricate understanding of craft and technique, and I appreciate the things that she does and the things that she brings to any given topic and conversation. Athanasia, had very little contact with her in our graduate program. She was doing a distance learning, but I got to work with her writing a whole lot. At the time, she was working with a really dark fantasy where the upper class, they wear different faces, but their own face, like the skin, is gone. It was dark and gritty and just engrossing, just amazing writing. Done more fantasy recently, I think. She's trying to do short stories. If you read Greek, if you are in Greece and you ever run into her writing, it's great. She really knocks it out of the park with all of her writing. And last but not least is my student was my student, Alessia. She's an emerging writer. She is a really strong reader and she's a really good writer. She enjoys fantasy. I think that she really enjoys like prompts and challenges. She's always done really well with that. But I do want to shout her out in case she is still doing more of her writing. I haven't looked at her stuff in a while, but I'm really looking forward to getting back into her stuff. And yeah, I've made a whole bunch of friends, but these are the ones who I'm most familiar with immediately and who are part of the writing group. So I wanted to give all of them a shout out because they're all awesome and I'm really happy to have you guys as friends. So there, I'm sorry that took so long. Number 2, what is the nicest compliment you've ever received about your writing? This was in undergrad and from Valerie Floyd, who I really respect as a writer. We haven't spoken in a while, so I hope she's doing well. Like 7 years ago, she was reading Handmaid's Tale, and she, like before class, she was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, your writing really reminds me of Margaret Atwood. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I think that's awesome. I don't know how to feel about this. Yeah, that was probably the nicest and like most like butterfly inducing compliment that I've ever gotten. Number 3, favorite Authortube video that you've ever made. I have to say that it's in the Writing 100 series, but I think that, in all honesty, it's the most recent one in that series, which is Earning Your Story. When I first learned about this concept of earning, it was actually through film class or film writing, and ever since then I've understood how that translates into regular novel storytelling and video games, comic books, whatever. If you don't have that setup and that earning and the justification and inevitability of your storytelling, it falls flat. And it's something that's so simple in concept, but nobody ever talks about, and like no one reads with that sort of thing in mind when they're critiquing. So I think that Earning Your Story is my favorite one, just purely because of the topic. Number 4, when or why did you fall in love with writing? I've always loved stories. I was that weird kid who had like puppet shows all the time, or played make-believe in various different things and had complex stories. Like, I have always been that kid. In 4th grade, when I get into the embarrassing stuff, I really loved this computer game, 4th grade Jumpstart, which had to do with a magical haunted island and rescuing a bunch of kids from the evil witch teacher because they had all been turned into different monsters. It was really dark sort of game, especially for 9-10 years old. I really liked it, and I wanted to write a play, so I did. It didn't work out. If you couldn't tell by my expression, it was terrible, but like I've always been drawn to story and I've always loved it. Truly, when it was like writing and trying to really fall in love with it, I was about 13 or 14 when we finally got like real internet and I had my own computer, and I was really into anime at that point in my life. Toonami was awesome, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to see more images about certain animes that I was watching, and randomly found fan fiction, fell in love with it, and even though those pieces were absolutely terrible, I loved the process. It was one of those, I've always made up stories in my head, but I guess I never thought about writing it down in any sort of significant way, and I got to practice really basic craft in a really warm and loving environment that didn't judge too harshly. So yeah, I would say about 13 or 14, and it was absolutely fan fiction. Number 5, what is your favorite thing that you've ever written? I've already said in the last Authortube video that I did that it was Na'an and Child, but if I had to pick a second favorite, because I mean, let's just go for variety, I'll say Meals or The Fire Race. I wrote a compilation of short stories for my undergraduate thesis, and both of those were included in those. Meals has actually been published technically on Words, Pauses, and Noises. I will put the thing here, and I'll put the link in the description below if you want to read it. It's dark, it's horror, just to let you know. If you don't know this about me, I love to explore taboos, all taboos. And this taboo is cannibalism. In a really interesting way, there's not a whole lot of literature out there about cannibalism, what drives people to cannibalism, how it works in different cultural purviews and instances. Obviously, as humans, if you cannibalize too much, you can totally get a disease, and it is not pretty. But I mean, beyond that, just the psychology of cannibalism is really interesting to me. I don't know, it's a taboo that we don't talk about very often, and has, if we talk about Hannibal and the, like, Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs and all that, like, it's totally in our pop culture, but we don't talk about it still. It's fascinating. But yes, Meals is about cannibalism, and not in the way that you would expect exactly. Mostly in that the reasons for the cannibalism are not explained. They're just understood that this is what it is. The Fire Race is another one, and I'm also proud of this one because the turn at the end is really what I enjoy about it. It's about two stable boys who work at a palace in the desert. One of them, he's really good at writing, he does tricks, and his friend is not as good, but a little bit smarter and a little bit more clever. And one day they come across a writer in the desert, and there is a phoenix. The one who likes to race challenges the strange writer to race for the phoenix. And it doesn't turn out quite the way that he intended. I love the turn. The world is perhaps not as well developed as other things because it is a short story, but both of those are pretty high up there on what I love about my writing and things that I've written. Number 6. What is your favorite part of writing? I don't know. I'll say the first draft because that's the most creative moment. I'm a pantser, and if you don't know what a pantser is, there's really 3 categories of writers. There's pantsers, planners, and plansters, which is a mix of the two. So planners is like, yes, you outline, you plan details, you know what you're gonna write before you write it. Pantsers start writing and don't know where it's gonna end. And then a mix is like you do some outlining, you do some planning, but you also sort of make it up as you go along. I'm kind of between pantser and planster. I usually know the concept and what I'm going to write, and I have certain scenes in my head. I just don't know quite how to get there. So the first draft is where the most creativity happens for me. And making it sound like I knew what I was doing, that I'm this brilliant writer, happens in the editing process, which I also enjoy, just not as much as the first draft. Number 7, what is your strongest skill as a writer? I've said this in the last video as well. I think that my dialogue is the most naturally what I'm good at. I was thinking about it a little bit more, and I think that my pacing is also something that I'm really strong at, but not for any discernible reason. I don't know exactly how to explain pacing so much as just, for me, it's a feeling. I know that within a chapter I have to hit certain beats, and I can sort of just feel where things are going and when it can resolve and when I should move on to like the next chapter. I've never really been able to explain it, and I've talked to other writers who also feel like it's something that once you read a whole lot, once you write, you just get the feeling of pacing. I've naturally had that feeling for a very long time. I should like look into more about pacing because that's a video on its own, really. 8. Tell us something that you're proud of. Apparently, I didn't write anything because it was too awkward for me. Something that I'm proud of. I don't know. I guess I'll start naming some accomplishments and hopefully that'll work. When I was just about to turn 21, I got published in 2 anthologies. The first one was Sunflowers, which is like it's a short. It is like 2 pages at most, and that was in Live Life, a Daydreamer's Journal. It's technically, I believe, still in the Guinness Book of World Records as having the most amount of authors listed in a single book. All proceeds went to cancer research. I was really proud to be a part of that. Even though I understand that pretty much they were just sort of taking everybody and anybody, but that was like my first publication, so I was really happy. The second is the short story that, according to the editor, was her favorite, and it was a zombie anthology that released for Valentine's Day called A Thorn of Death, and I believe that the story was called Meat Fanatic. So it's a zombie story, obviously, but it deals with eating disorders, which I don't know if anyone else tried to put in an underlying message in their zombie story because I didn't read the rest of them. I didn't even get my free copy. Firefly and Wisp, can I get my free copy? It's been years, I know, but I want my free copy. Yeah, so that happened. What else? I don't know. I am proud of all the work that I've done for Sha'anan Serum, which is my current novel series. It's something that I've been working on for many years. The very beginnings of it started when I was having a crisis of majors, and I switched over from dance ethnology to creative writing. But Sha'anan Serum and the world of Microtia is something I've been dreaming of for honestly like 10 years now. And it's taken so many different forms and so many different stories, but just the time spent, I feel, has been well worth it. I guess I'm also proud to have studied with the people that I have, or some of the people that I have. I mentioned in the last video that I studied under Reza Aslan, because he was doing both religious studies and creative writing classes. I enjoyed having him as a teacher. I also got a letter of recommendation for my MFA program. I'm also proud to have studied under Nala Hopkinson. She writes science fiction, also Black Jamaican fantasy, I believe, also as well. She's also helping to write a series of comics, I believe, right now. I know this sounds really weird because she didn't come into my writing life until quite late, but she really introduced me into diverse writing. I know that sounds really weird, but when you start out as a writer, you write. You write the things that you like, you write the things that imitate other writers, and I didn't realize just how not diverse my writing was until I met her, and she opened up a ton of doors for me and how to think about my characters and what I'm writing about, and sort of just how to have fun with writing as well. And she also wrote a letter of recommendation for my MFA. So and now comes to the thing that I didn't write either because I don't know what to say, and it is number 9. Give yourself a pep talk. I don't know what to say. You know what you want. You know how to do it. You've always known how to do it. But whatever you're feeling right now, whether it's doubt or rejection or hopelessness, you know you can do this. You know in your gut what is right, what is wrong. You know if you're just doing it for the money, it's not worth it. You know that if it makes you happy, it's absolutely worth it. You know where you stand. You've always known where you stand. Don't doubt that. The biggest thing that you can do to make yourself fail right now is doubt. When you graduated, you sent out the announcements with Neil Gaiman's quote, "Make good art." You need to remember that was your motto going forward. You would make art, you would make it good, you would make it no matter what you were feeling at the time. Just channel whatever it is that you are feeling into something new, a new project, into a new scene, into a new form of whatever you want to create right now. Because some of the best stuff and some of your favorite stuff has always been the things that you wrote when you were emotional as fuck. Whether it was the highest of the highs or the lowest of the lows, or the most numb that you have ever been, you have always been able to channel that into something beautiful and something that people enjoy. You can do that now. Go make yourself a cup of tea, or a cup of coffee, or a pot of coffee, or a pot of tea, and do what you need to do. But you can do it, and you will do it, even if it takes you a lot longer than you thought. And I think that's all I had to say. And now I'm emotional. I'm emotionally compromised. And I don't know who to tag. So tag yourself, because if you want to do this tag, it's fun and cathartic, and I don't know what to say anymore. So there we go. I'm gonna shut up. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below, and check out Tibuggy's original tag and her answers because they were awesome. Thank you so much for being here and subscribing and sticking around. Hopefully this wasn't too self-indulgent and you enjoyed everything. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, bye!